What is Genome India project? Why does it matter? The Department of Biotechnology recently announced a new platform and framework for sharing its human genome dataset sequenced under the Genome India project, comprising 10,000 genome sequences of healthy individuals from 99 ethnic populations in the country. This dataset has helped increase a baseline map of India's genetic diversity. The second phase of this project will see researchers sequence genomes of people with specific diseases. What is a genome? How genomes are sequenced. Every individual inherits from their parents an instruction manual that decides how their body develops and functions, from their height and the color of their hair to the diseases they may inherit or predisposed to. This manual, known as the genome, is made of twisted pair strands of DNA, commonly known DNA. Each strand of DNA comprises of four chemical units or bases denoted by the letters A, C, G, and T. Just like the order of letters determines the meaning of the word, the order of these bases determines the meaning of the information encoded in the DNA. The various combinations of these bases, there are around 3 billion pairs complete in the complete human genome, thus determine the unique genetic makeup of each individual. Sequencing simply refers to determining the exact order of the bases in the strand of DNA, and to do this, researchers first extract genetic information from blood. Virtually every single cell in the body contains a complete copy of one's genome, but handling the entire genome is difficult. Researchers that cut the genome open up into smaller pieces, tag these pieces, and decode the smaller chunks of genetic material. This information is then reassembled using tags to create a whole genome. What is Genome India project? Why it is it important? With some 4,600 distinct populations spread across the country, India is genetically very diverse. The Genome India project, approved in 2020, aims to capture this diversity. Researchers from 20 scientific institutions have come together to sequence 10,000 genomes under the project. Department of Biotechnology aims to eventually sequence up to a million genomes. This can be helped in a number of ways. It can help identify genetic bases or risk factors for various diseases, which can in turn be used to develop targeted therapies and diagnostic tests. Newer therapies for several diseases work by modifying, deleting, or adding certain genes, which make it important to first identify the genes that lead to certain diseases. Of the 135 million genetic variations identified in the 10,000 genome sequences so far, some 7 millions were not found in other global databases. A uniquely Indian dataset may thus help identify specific genetic variations found in Indian population. This further helps scientists identify the frequency at which certain genetic variations which are known to cause disease appear in the population, and thus recognize how common this disease might be. For example, MYBPC3 mutation, known to lead to cardiac arrest at young age, is found in 4.5% of Indian population but is rare globally. An Indian database can also help identify resistance indicating variations, the genes or lack thereof that might make certain medicines or anesthetics ineffective in certain populations. For instance, people belonging to the Arya Vaisya community of South India lack the certain gene that precludes them from properly processing common anesthetics, which can even lead fatal effects on them. What will the second phase of the project entail, and how will the data be shared? The second phase will involve sequencing of genomes with specific diseases. This will enable researchers to compare diseased genomes with healthy ones and help them identify genes that cause or predispose a person to certain diseases. Researchers may also be able to study genetic changes that occur when someone is afflicted with a certain disease. The team is currently in discussion with experts to identify the diseases for which genomes should be sequenced and the number of genomes the next that need to be sequenced for each disease to produce meaningful results. Among diseases most likely to be included would be different type of cancers, chronic conditions such as diabetes, various neurological or neurodegenerative diseases, and certain rare diseases found in Indian populations. The data produced by the project, however, will not be universally available for the time being. We have been we have to be very careful how we share this highly sensitive data. The data will only be available to research institutes that partner with us for this study. Dr. Suchita Ninave, senior scientist from the Department of Biotechnology, said, to maintain the anonymity of data, it will also be double blinded. Samples sequenced by a partner institute will be encoded before being uploaded to the central database. The urea success story: as many as six new plants, with the seventh in the pipeline, have been commissioned at a cost of 60,000 crores since 2019. All these plants are in new green revolution states. Amid shortages of diammonium phosphate and general lack of investment in manufacturing, the urea industry has seen significant installation of new production capacities and progress towards achieving government goal of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Between 2011-12 to 23-24, India's domestic urea production has grown from 22 million tons to 31.4 million tons, as imports have fallen from 7.8 to 7 million tons after peaking more than 9.8 million tons in 2020-21. The current fiscal so far has seen a further 31.1% drop in imports, which could end up below 5 million tons, the lowest since 4.7 million tons of 2006-7. The greenfield projects, the increase in output is mainly due to six new plants, the three of Hindustan Urvarak and Rasayan Limited, and each one of Chambal Fertilizers and Chemical Matrix Fertilizers and Rama Gundam Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited. With seven terminals for handling imported liquefied LNG and pipelines crisscrossing most of the country, the economics of make versus buy urea has undergone a change in the last decade. The LNG terminals in Mundra, Dahej and Hazira, Gujarat, Dabhol, Maharashtra, Kochi, Kerala in North Tamil Nadu and Dhamra, Odisha, and the pipelines network have made it easier to import and transport gas instead of urea to the hinterland. These plants, which run on natural gas together, produce 7.55 metric tons of urea in 23. Three of them, Matix, Chambal, and HURL Gorakhpur, produced beyond their rated capacities in 2023-24. These plants are located in new green revolution areas of East Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Telangana. We have a 20% market in eastern India. Besides being a sole urea producer in West Bengal, we also supply to Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Assam and Tripura. Nishant Kanodia, chairman of Matic Fertilizers, said the company's plant in Panagarh near Durgapur was country's biggest single unit and most energy efficient manufacturer in 2023-24. A seventh 1.27 million ton urea plant coming up in Talcher in Odisha's Angul district at an estimated cost of 17,000 crore is about two-thirds complete, unlike the six gas-based units making producing ammonia using technology licensed from KBR US or Haldor Denmark and urea from Italy or Japan. The Talcher project will use coal as feedstock. The coal is from Talcher mines. Given its high ash content, There is a provision for blending it up to 25% with petroleum coke sourced from Indian Oil Corporation Paradeep Refinery. Make versus buy. A basic question with regard to the new plant is whether the investment of 61,000 crore Talcher is worth it. The landed price of imported area in India, based on the last tender of NFL, the largest government-owned urea manufacturer, is 370 to 403 dollars per ton. Natural gas is being delivered to domestic urea plants at an uniform pool price of 14.35 per million metric British thermal units. In terms of gross calorific value, it is $15 on a net calorific value basis. Taking energy consumption to of 5 gigacalorie per ton, or 0.25 gigacalorie per million metric British thermal units, the feedstock cost alone in the urea is manufactured by the new plant comes to 318 per ton or 15 million ton. Adding a $175 fixed cost, which greenfield projects are entitled for a period of 8 years, supposedly to cover all other charges, including interest, depreciation, overheads, and profits, takes the total to 493 per ton. It is thus cheaper today to buy than make urea at home. However, the $15.9 million metric British thermal unit delivered cost of gas is around only $12 after excluding custom duty and other taxes. Netting out these levies will break down the feedstock in domestic urea to $52 and the total to 427 per ton. Also, the imported bulk urea arriving in vessels has to be discharged at the port before bagging and reloading for dispose to the consumption sectors, moving this urea from north to eastern hinterlands, which are farther away from the ports than from where the new plants are located, would involve an additional cost of $35 per ton towards bagging, differential transport, and interest expenses. This further narrows the gap between buy and make. In addition, there are benefits of creating employment and boosting overall economic activity. With 7 terminals for handling imported LNG and pipelines crisscrossing much the country, the economics of make versus buy has undergone a change in last decade. LNG terminals at Mundra, Dahej, Hazira, Dabhol, Kochi, and Ennore and Dhamra, the pipelines network have made it easier to import and transport gas instead of urea to the hinterland. The net import of urea now makes more sense for feeding the western and southern markets closer to the ports. This allows for different Atmanirbhar Bharat urea strategy for making more in north and eastern India while exploring greater bio options for peninsular India. This could be combined with shutting down of some of the old energy inefficient plants, curbing urea consumption. Between 2011 and 2023-24, India's consumption of urea has gone up from 29.6 million tons to 35.8 million tons, while the increase for DAP and complex fertilizers has not been much. The unbalanced consumption growth has been driven by farm gate prices of urea being frozen at 5,360 per ton without neem coating since 2012. A more national prices would promote judicious application of urea by farmers and in turn reduce the unsustainable pressure on both making and buying the nitrogenous fertilizer. How the United States new chip rule will work. The US government on Monday said it will issue a new regulation to regulate the flow of the most sophisticated US designed artificial chips and technologies to other countries. The rule will restrict the export of chips known as graphic processing units. These are specialized processors originally created to accelerate graphics rendering, but beyond their gaming applications, the ability of GPUs, such as those built by US based leader Nvidia, to process different prices of data simultaneously have made them valuable for training and running AI models. For example, OpenAI's ChatGPT is trained and improved on tens and thousands of GPUs. The number of GPUs needed for AI model depends on how much advanced an GPU is, how much data is being used to train the model, the size of model itself, and the time of development wants to spend training it. To control global access to AI, the US is expanding restrictions on advanced GPUs used to train advanced AI models. The limits on GPU for most countries in the new rule are set by the compute power to account for differences in individual chips. Total processing performance is a metric used to measure the computational power of a chip. Under the regulation, countries with caps on compute power are restricted to a total of 790 million TPP through 2027. The cap translates into an equivalent of 50,000 H100 NVIDIA GPUs, according to Divyansh Kaushik, an AI expert at Beacon Global Strategies. 50,000 H100 is an enormous amount of power, enough to fuel cutting edge research in entire AI companies and support the most demanding AI applications on the planet, but the caps do not reflect the true limit on the number of H100 chips in the country. Companies like Amazon Web Services or Microsoft's Azure Cloud Unit that meet the requirements for special authorization, also known as Universal Verified End User Status, are exempt from the caps. National authorizations also are available to companies headquartered in any destination that is not country of concern. Those with national verified end user status have caps of roughly 20,000 advanced GPUs over the next 2 years. Which places can get unlimited AI chips? 18 destinations are exempt from country caps. Those are Australia, Belgium, Britain, etc. What is being done with model weights? Another item being controlled by the US is model weights. AI models are trained to produce meaningful material, being fed large quantities of data. The algorithm adjusts numerical parameters that weigh the results of certain operations more than others to complete tasks. Animal welfare, people safety issues of use of elephants in ceremonies. The top court agreed with the petitioners that court should not get into lawmaking and stayed all directions of the High Court that were contrary to Kerala Captive Elephants Rules 2012. Supreme Court also invoked the principle of volenti non fit injuria. To a willing person, injury is not done. To rationalize that devotees willingly took the risk of attending festivals at which captive elephants were paraded.